doing that is you will need what's known as an or SQL server, but if you have some other server there, you can add it onto that, or, well, it doesn't take a lot of horsepower, so you can buy a small server for it. Once you have that and you have the IIS installed, you can then make an appointment with the IT department, and they will actually install all of the instructions and whatnot to display the dashboard pages, which we'll see in a moment. Prior to that, there's a couple of decisions you have to make, and people are going to ask you. The biggest one is going to be, is this going to be internet or intranet? Intranet meaning that only the people on your network within your facility can see the dashboard pages. There's no presence out on the internet. Other people can't see it, can't try and get to it, etc. Internet means that anybody that can access the internet and has a valid login and password can get to the dashboard, open it up, and use its functionality outside. There's pros and cons to both. Obviously, the intranet has a much higher security. The internet version of it, though, has the ability for you to use this with service techs, customer management people, salespeople, etc., outside of your organization, because there are many handy tools for people to use when they're out in the field. Okay. There are two ways to access this. One is obviously from SedonaOffice. If you go directly into SedonaOffice, once it's installed, you will have a new thing in your tree called SedonaDashboard. Okay, and when you click the SedonaDashboard, it will launch your dashboard personalized to the user ID of the person signed into SedonaOffice. Okay, it actually uses that to give them permissions as to what they can have on their dashboard. Each user has their own dashboard. So Wayne's dashboard is set up totally different than my dashboard, and Sam's dashboard is different even still. Not only does it have unique layout in the way of what you're seeing right here, but unique permissions, because you may not want your service people to see your GL. Fine, don't give them GL permissions. And so there's a number of different things and controls that you have that. In the old dashboard, for those show you the difference of that in just a moment. Okay, so let's take a tour of this dashboard that we have open. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one other thing I wanted to do and show you first. If you want to open up a new page here, this is what you get if you log into the from the outside world, not from SedonaOffice. Username, password, and company. You notice this is pretty much the same thing as if you're logging into SedonaOffice. As a matter of fact, it actually goes through the same process as if you logged in from SedonaOffice. So, all right. So, you get a dashboard. Let's take a tour of what we have here. Well, in the header here, we have customer display, SedonaDashboard, which is the screen we're currently seeing, SedonaAnalytics, which we're going to talk about near the end of the presentation, a direct link to our website, SedonaOffice.com, and it's a beautiful website. A report menu of any report that you're allowed to see. Okay, so you can go directly to a report or exit the dashboard. If you're out in the field on an internet thing, you want to exit, you click exit the dashboard, it wipes out all of those login variables that are held on your local machine so somebody can't come along and sneak in behind you. On the bottom, we have the footer, and again, it has some, who we are, what we are. Again, a link both to our SedonaOffice product and our Alarm Biller product, and a direct link to contact support if you have issues. So that's the header and footer. Now, the dashboard is made up of tabs. As a matter of fact, you see I have two tabs here. I have simple, I have complex. We're currently looking at the simple tab. Okay, and I can move things around on the tab just by grabbing the title and dragging it. Okay, I can change the size of a particular tab just by grabbing grabbing one of these little shaded areas here and pulling it sideways, except that one doesn't actually change because it's fixed, but other ones do. I think this guy changes. But anyway, these are simple ones. When you pull up these visualizations, they are instantaneous views of the data in your system. So for instance, when we open this up, this is my aging. You can see my database is a little out of date. This is my aging as of the moment I opened this. Now that won't change. If I left that on there for 3 days, it would still be the same numbers no matter how much invoicing and stuff we did. I could close the page and reopen it and it would refresh. But then we have other ones because minute by minute information is important. So for instance, here we have job and service counts by status. Okay, well your service in particular, and jobs to a lesser extent, they change minute by minute as your day goes by. So these guys are set to update every 3 minutes. So we have those that are static and those that update every 3 minutes. And as you can see, we have both graphical visualizations and we have text-only visualizations. Okay, and you choose what you have for those. So let's look at adding. We'll add something over here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on the little gear here for this one, and we're going to say we're going to add from the visual gallery. And we are going to add, let me see, what's something nice. Let's add deposits. Okay, so I've added deposits, done. It always appears here in the left column, and of course, because my thing's out of date, because it only shows you the deposits for the last 30 days, and I haven't done any deposits the last 30 days. So if you've got something like this, you're saying, well, that's not really what I want, you can just remove it. Okay, so that's how you add and remove items from your dashboard. Now, in any given, most of these have a drill down to a report. For instance, when we looked at report menu here, we see there is an AR aging in here someplace. Yeah, well. And when I click on this, you notice the hand changes anything over this. So I'm not clicking on a particular day. I'm just clicking on the visualization itself. It opens up an additional tab here. So I still have my original dashboard. I've got this. And now I can see my aging here, but I have different things that I can do to it. For instance, I can say show or hide the customer list here on the side. All right, and I can start applying filters. For instance, I can say, well, I only want to see cycle invoices. Okay. And then that will change. Or if I want to include advanced deposits, okay, and it changes. See, and now when I show the customer list, there's a different list here because I've applied filters. So we have drill downs. And if we go to our complex, that's a simple drill down. If we go to our complex side, we get some of our more interesting visualizations. Some of them have multiple columns of data to give you multiple views of looking at the way that you're looking at the data. Okay, so for instance, this one is 12-month income analysis chart. This is closely related to, but is not meant to replace your income statement. Your income statement is formatted to meet GAAP specifications. But if you're looking at your income statement and you're saying, where did that number come? For instance, we notice right here that I have a huge cost of goods sales. So if I wanted to look and dig into this and see where some of these numbers are coming, I click anywhere on here and it opens up the report. And now I can start picking off the ones I want. For instance, cost of goods sold, $209,000. That's higher, way higher than anybody else. So I can say, okay, I want to look at this month. Now, this looks more like your income statement, okay? And so I can say, well, cost of goods sold. There's 3 different accounts that fall underneath that section. This one here is the big guy. So let's just look at that one account. Okay. Now these are all the registered transactions that made up that amount of money. And here we can see this is where all that money's going, all right? And so we can say this is the, was done through a manual adjustment. Well, let's take a look at that particular. And remember, right now we're in account 5131. So we can look at that particular single registry entry, and we can see, all right, there it is, 5131, that's where we're at. But here's the offset account. If we want to go back and say, well, what else is in that account? I can either return back to the account I was in, or I can return back to the other account, the other side of the register. So that's one of the ones we have a multiple drill downs. This is another one. I'm not going to go as far detail into this because you can play with it when you get it. But here you have the full report. You can choose. I want 12 months trailing. I want quarterly. I want from this date to that date, etc. Many of these reports, you have your settings here, and then you have a refresh button. That's so that every time you change this, it doesn't try and refresh the page on you until you get everything set the way you want, and then say refresh. And on here, you notice that we have the RMR in force, we have adds, we have cancels, and we have what the difference was month by month, whether we went up or we went down. And I can look at, for instance, ads done for a particular period, and we can see this, and you can jump to other ones. I'll leave you to play with that when you get your dashboard installed. So, whoops, it went too far. Well, you know what, we'll just open it right back up again. Okay, another feature that we have here, which is particularly useful for outside the company, although it has uses inside, but this was really designed for when you're out in the field. It's what we call the customer display. And the customer display is a miniature version of the Customer Explorer. So we're going to find a customer, and we can search by name, we can search by customer number, we can search by customer address, we can search by their alarm account. But we're going to find by name because I know there's got to be a Jones in there, and we're going to pick this one. Okay, so immediately we see that I picked on it again without RMR. I seem to be lucky at hitting that. But here immediately we see the customer number, customer name, bills to, information, that there. We can go to sites. Now we can see all of the sites that he has. We can go to systems. We can see all the systems. Recurring, if he had any, would be here. Invoices. Let's get a different one because I want somebody that's got stuff. Okay, here we go. So here's a customer, and he has RMR. All right, so this customer here, and then in sites, he only has one site. On there, he only has one system. But he does have, this is his current recurring, and this is his RMR tracking records. So you can see that here. So you can see what he has now, and you can see the history of how it got to that point. Invoices. Here are the invoices, complete with balance due. Okay. And then we have a ledger. This is similar to all the other ledgers that you see in the query builder or in the customer section, in which you can, when they say, well, I sent you a payment, where did it go? Okay, here's your payment. Here's the transaction number. It was used to pay invoice, and check 128 went to invoice 5006. So, again, a ledger of all of their activities. Contacts, it's just a simple contact list, and a list of tickets. Now, if the particular ticket that we want right here, we want to know more information about this one, if we click that, it doesn't appear to do anything until we go to ticket detail. The one we selected there, ticket detail, thank you, is now here with all of the field notes and everything. And we can see, so basically you can see a customer, his systems, his recurring, everything about that customer on any web-capable device, on your smartphone, on your tablet, etc. If you choose the internet option, you can see that out in the field when you're dealing with customers. Okay. So, now, we'll go back to the dashboard. we talked about how these approximate, for instance, we said an income statement, how these approximate reports within the system. In the documentation, it tells you which report it matches to. So for instance, if we look at the AR aging right here, if you ran the AR aging report, it might not match your AR aging here. And you're going to say, well, what good is that? How, why doesn't it match? The aging report actually looks at invoice by invoice, sums up the balance and payments, etc., ages it, and gives you a number of that instant in time. But there's a place where you can age your customers, and you fill those aging buckets, which is used for things like statements and that. This report is based on the buckets. As a matter of fact, you can use the word bucket here. And that's to save time because it is a web server in that. We didn't want you to click on that and then have it take 5 minutes before it showed up because it was aging everything. If you're waiting on a paper to come out of the printer, that's one thing. But when you're running something live on your screen, you want faster response. So this will match the AR aging report after you've aged your customers. And then as time goes by and transactions are done, then the aging report and the buckets that they're in will slowly drift apart. But anytime you want to check them against each other, all you have to do is re-age your customers, and this will again match that 100%. This is not meant to replace paper reports. This is meant to be an analysis tool for you to check on your business and see where your business is at, where your performances are. Are you hitting things? For instance, I'm going to add another one to give you an idea of some of the things we do here. As you can see, there's a fair number of them. And let's just choose this one because it's small and I don't have a lot of screen space. This actually comes in several flavors. This happens to be monthly, okay? And so the monthly sales goals, both, and I can make that a little bigger if you're having a hard time seeing it. Sure I can. See how it changed? This is the installs, and this is the RMR. You actually, in the management portion of this, you can set those goals. You can say, this month I want to sell $1,000 in recurring and $10,000 in installs. And then this needle right here will move according to what you've sold this month. I probably should have used the annual one because I have some annual sales, but anyway. And it automatically scales itself for here, it's times 1,000. It automatically scales itself so it has the same relevance whether you're a small company or a large company, okay? And there's monthly, quarterly, and annual sales as individual pairs, or there's one big one that has all 6 gauges in one pair. But this changes constantly. And when it reaches your goal, it will change. My goal right now is 0, so it's gold right now. But if you're, let's say your goal was $5,000 or $500, all right. So when you got up here to $500, it would change from red to yellow, and then from red to green, and then when you pass that, then it would change to gold because you're golden. And so you can monitor your sales right here. This is another one of those that updates regularly. And of course, there's no particular report that matches this. I mean, you could print out the sales report and that, but this is just a way for you to keep your finger on the pulse of what you're at. The same thing with the deposits. It tells you how much money you've got in the bank without digging through tons of paper reports. Okay. Now, all of these things that we've done so far, all of these things that we've viewed on this page right now, these are all things that were written by Perennial Software, and they come with your dashboard when you get it, and you can load as many as few, however you want to do. Like I said, each person gets their own dashboard. Okay, and while we're talking about that, each person, one quick look. In order for a person to see dashboard, you have to give them dashboard permissions. And it's another permission just like any other. It's a fair ways down here. Right there, dashboard. Okay. So if you have employees you don't want them to be in the dashboard at all, just don't give them permission. They won't see anything. So besides being able to control it item by item, you can also control it by whether they have access at all. The other thing that you can control, I should have had this open already, sorry. Which I don't seem to find at the moment. Can't remember what I called it now. You also have a utility that comes with this that opens up and you can control directly, excuse me, control directly each person by user group. So for instance, you have Bob, okay, and Bob is the head of your service department. So you can give him, and you've given him not only the service tech permissions user group, but you've also given him the service manager permissions. So you want him to have a few more things in his. When you go into the utility, it shows you the user groups that he's been assigned to. You can't change your user groups there. You still have to do that within SedonaOffice. But then you can say, this user group right here, service tech, I want them to have the ability to see customer display. Okay. And then the service manager, well, I want him to be able to see all the status counts and invoices from service tickets and things like that, of that nature, so that he can keep track of how much money you're making on the on your service department. Okay, so because he has two groups, he gets two sets of permissions. They're additive, etc. Okay, and that's all controlled through a utility. The other thing that's in that utility is whether a person can have analytics or not. If you do not give them the basic analytics permission, this button doesn't even show up for them. If you give them the basic permission, then you can say, and you have analytics for AR, or you have analytics, and this is because it's a database querying tool. This is done by application within the SedonaOffice client. So you can say he can do analytics in AR, or he can do it in service, and however many of those you check off is however many that he can check. There are times when you want to give someone analytics, but not give them any permissions to make anything, because we have this right here. This is your management tools. And again, you only get to that. The theme editor allows you to change the basic colors of fonts and bars and stuff like that. We picked a subdued one based off the SedonaOffice colors. That's why you see a lot of greens and blues. But feel free to change it. If you have particular company colors, you go into your theme editor and you can make any theme you want. Also, we have the dashboard setup. Okay, and this is where annual goals are the ones I set. This is where you would set those goals for use in your system. So for instance, if we wanted to reset that monthly sales for installs, and we wanted to set that to $1,000 or $5,000, sure, why not? There, you just set it. It's that easy. Okay, now we just put that in there to make it easier for you to control who can see it, who cannot see it. But the main thing of analytics is the ability to build grids, reports, and visualizations of your own choosing. In the original SedonaOffice system, analytics and dashboard were two separate pieces. And unfortunately, anything that you built in analytics, you could not add to your dashboard. The big improvement in this system, aside from all the cute bars and stuff like that, is now when you create something, you can add it to your own dashboard or share it with someone else and they can add it to their dashboard. It's now a unified system, one system. So let's say that we want to build something. Okay. So the first thing we want to do, we want to create that was not easy to say, analysis table in order to create visualizations. And we get this. Here, you select what table you want, okay, to start with. And the first question somebody's going to say is, how do I know what table I want? The Database Explorer has been rewritten to work off the same data structure in the database as this right here. So if you go and find a field in the Database Explorer and it tells you the table, it goes to here. And the reason we changed it to run off the same table actually within the database now, it's not a separate data structure, is so that it is constantly kept in sync with the analysis analytics database. So let's say we wanted to look at, let's look at some invoices, okay, AP invoices, all right? And so that does all this. It shows us all the fields in that table. We don't want all. All we want to see is the invoice number and the invoice date and apply that. Okay? And then notice we have the select data again. So we want to see, because we're looking at invoices, let's see how much are parts. If these are all the things that tie now to the AP invoice, and it shows you the direction in which they go. And in our case, we want AP invoice to parts. So we add that, and the new table comes with everything. We don't want everything. We want the quantity, the rate, the amount, and the description. Okay, apply. So as you can see, we're building a table here as we go. All right. Now, this is automatically done for us, but if it wasn't, we could add a formula. And we could actually calculate different things here. So let's add expenses. So we have one more piece in here. And then we'll look and see what we can do with it. AP invoice expense. Now, the first question that I usually get is, all right, so I've added a table. How do I get rid of it? Let's see, amount, description, quantity, and rate. Well, how do you get rid of it? You always have to work from the bottom up. Apply the column. And if I were to choose a table here and then decide I didn't like it, if I go all the way to the top, there's a blank. And I would just apply that blank, and it wipes out a table. All right, so that's how you can get it. So right now we have a data grid, okay? And we have a data grid of all the information for that. Now, because we have multiple items, let's add an aggregate, okay? So let's add the sum of the parts and the sum of the expenses, okay? And we want to do it by invoice number. So the first thing we need to do is we need to group that. We're going to group by the invoice number, okay? There's corruption in my database. And then we're going to add aggregates here. So we want this amount. And we're going to add aggregate sum. Here's the sum, both for the invoice and total. And then, but I don't like those two amounts side by side. So one of the things you can do is just grab it and drag it over here. Sure you can. Make me a liar. Get over. Why are you not letting me drag? Maybe I have to go in the other direction. Nope. I don't know. Anyway, we'll add an aggregate here. Sum, okay? So that's the sum, or will be in a moment here. That's the sum of our expenses over the same period of time. But that's every invoice I've ever had, going way back to 2006. So let's say I only want to see the invoices I've gotten this year. So we can add a filter. So we go up here and we choose filters. And for the filter, I'm going to filter on the invoice date. By the way, this only shows what's already in here. So if you want to invoice on something, you've got to make sure it's in this list right here. And anytime you can go back to the data and add an extra field when you say, oops, I forgot. Okay, want the invoice date to be greater or equal than a specific date or a sliding date today. And notice there's a whole bunch of them here. And let me see. This, where is it? Where is it? A lot of them. This fiscal year. This year. No, that's last year. Where does this year start? Am I going too fast? There we go. I was going too fast. This year start. Okay, and I add that filter. It'll refresh. There's an error in the filter. Sliding date. Well, let's just use a fixed date, specific date. 1/1/2007. Replace. Are you sure? Yes. There we go. Okay. So now I see only the invoices that I had for since the beginning of the year. Numbers are a lot smaller, etc. Okay, so you're saying that's pretty good. Now I want to make that into a graph. I want a visualization of that. Okay, well, we can do that very simply. We go up to here. Oh, we should save this one. They say give it a title. Rename AP Bills. Okay. Save. And then we can add a chart. And so this is the chart by invoice number, but we could say, or by quantity. But let's choose, we can say, notice that it defaults to a horizontal bar chart. Change that to a vertical bar chart. There we go. And we can look at that because here it's doing it invoice by invoice. And we can say that we want an aggregate of, not quantity, of parts amount. Okay. So now we can see in each invoice how much money we've got. And then we can add a relevance filter, which is automatic. Notice we now have an other column for the for the little stuff. Okay. And we can save that again and give it a name. And we can also say show the value. And now notice the value is there above it. So you can do a number of different things on this. You can add a second bar in there, as you notice some of the other things. You can use line graphs. You can use curves. Pie charts. Scatter, etc. So there's whole bunches of different ways you can do it. And of course, different graphs are more used for, different data sets that have different meaning to you. But we'll go back to our horizontal bar chart right for now. And we're going to get rid of the value. Don't show any value because it makes it look too cluttered. Okay? So that's how easy it is to make a different graph. And again, and this is quick and dirty. You can make something pretty if you take your time. Alrighty. Now, this little box right here, set of boxes, once I click on that, this guy will become available on my dashboard. So if I do that, I can give it a name. This is sum of amount by invoice, sum of parts amount by invoice number. And you can give it a description. Okay, and done. All right, I'm going to go back to the home. We can now see that we have a new grid here called AP Bills. If we go back to our dashboard and say add from visual gallery, Sum of parts by invoice number. There you go. We just created it. So now you can create your own visualization, your own reports. And if we went ahead and made that as a report, you would be able to launch it as a report, etc. Now the next question is, okay, I can put that on my dashboard, but Bob wants it in his dashboard too because he really, really likes it. You can share analytics. You cannot share visualizations. So I can take this grid right here, okay, and I can share that with a whole bunch of people. Robot Bob, there he is, okay. Alrighty, so I've shared it with him, and now if I were to log in to Robot Bob, as Robot Bob, I would see that grid, and then I could open it up, and I could make whatever visualization I want. These are my items. These are the ones that have been shared back to me, one, okay, who the owner is, and if I want to view that, because I have no idea what it is, it's customer account by branch code, okay? So, and of course, Robot Bob, if he does his shared with me, he'll see the one that I just sent him. So that's how you do that. By the way, there's a little there that tells you how to get started on the visualizations. So that's basically analytics, the 5-cent tour. Let me see. I'm still going to find that. Excuse me while I do something uncouth. I can't find it in my menus. I'll just go to the source code. Sure, I will. It'll probably help if I open the right. I'm in the process of changing development tools, so sometimes I open up the wrong tool. So again, you have to log in. I'm the administrator. I have a password. I choose a company. Okay, and here we got Robot Bob again. These are his groups. If I pick a particular group, this is what he gets from that group, which is one thing, analytics inventory. And analytics needed for any kind of analytics. That's the master one I was talking about. And this box up here tells us everything he gets with all of his things added together. So we can see all the things. These are all of the things that he can see and added together. And if I were to make a change here in the inventory department, everybody in the inventory, I misspelled inventory. Everybody in the inventory department it would affect them because again, it's done by user groups. But again, I could choose, as you can see, report by report, item by item. Now, you won't find your things from analytics in this list because they're not in the database. We don't know anything about them. You haven't created them yet. That's why you do the whole sharing thing through the actual analytics dashboard, because that's how you control permissions of what you create, and that's person by person or group by group. When you open up that share button, you will see all of the groups and all of the people, and you can say only show me groups or only show me people. If you've got a lot of people in that, you don't want to see a whole big giant list. Okay, so that's how that works. Get this out of the way. We don't need that anymore. Okay, right here. And you can unshare things. I'll go back to my items and notice that it's gray if it hasn't been shared and green if it has. If I wanted to remove sharing on this, I could just say, you don't get that anymore. I just took it away from you. And that's how you unshare it. And I think that brings us to questions and answers.
All right, hopefully I unmuted my phone properly. Most of the questions I've been answering via the messenger. So we've got a couple here that are kind of more universal that everyone can benefit from. First one is, who has access to the utility to grant permissions if we are using a terminal server?
That will be on the terminal server. You will need to log into the desktop of the terminal server. And there's a method to do that. If you're hosting your own terminal server, you will have that installed there. And even if everybody has access to it, they don't. That's another permission that's set up in SedonaOffice. So you can control who can log in there and who can't. If somebody tries to log in and they don't have that permission, it's just like anything else. They can't get there. If you're on the cloud, if you're a cloud customer, then you would have to log in and go to, instead of your normal login that takes you directly to SedonaOffice, you have at least one login that will take you to the desktop of your cloud system there, and from there you will find that permissions tool.
All right. The next one I'm going to read as written, but then I have kind of like an altered version of the question after you answer it. Is there a way to work off an already created canned Sedona report and simply add wanted fields?
Sometimes, but it's somewhat long and involved. Whenever you run a SedonaOffice report, I shouldn't say whenever, about 80% of the reports you run, particularly list reports in the more simple reports, there is a file created within your SedonaOffice directory called reportsql.txt. Okay, if you open that up, that is the query that the report just ran. So once you have that piece of information in hand, you can use it directly or with the help of the Database Explorer. Then you can go in and create an analysis grid with the same fields in it and then add whatever you want. But there is no direct import at this time.
Now, I'm going to modify the question just in case there's other people curious out there. For the dashboard elements that they can add to their own dashboard, is there a way for them to edit those, or do they have to go through us?
No, they have to go through us. And that's the only thing that
costs money, by the way. And if someone had an idea, if someone had a really good idea on a dashboard, how would they get that information to us?
They should send it through support as a addition request, as a normal enhancement request. If it's something pretty universal that we went, wow, that's really cool, then we would just build it. If it was something very unique to your company, then we would charge you like we would for a custom report. So if you come up with a good idea that's good for everybody, just like a report, we'll build it. If you come up with something that's very unique to your company and we don't see other people using it, then we'll give you a quote.
Gotcha. All right, next question in line. Somebody came in. Oh.
Wait a minute, before we leave that, one other question that I have been asked is, can you develop a query in the customer in one of the query builders and then take that query and put it in? You would do that by the same method of opening up the SQF file that you saved it to and then using the DB Explorer to create that. I do hope to eventually create a tool to automatically read those, but I do not have that at this time.
Gotcha. Next two questions are kind of related. I'm just going to reverse the order. Easy one first. When's this version available?
This version's done. This version right now is in QA testing. As soon as it gets the stamp of approval that it's good and it actually does what I claim it does, then it'll start rolling out the door. I don't know what exactly the schedule is on that because it's not in my department. But development-wise, it's done.
And then the second question was, they've heard about version 2 coming out. How long till that gets released?
That's version 2. You just saw it.
Okay.
It's done. It's in QA testing.
And next one. Someone's had their Sedona dashboard for a while, so they're on the version 1, but their screen looks very different. So that's probably because you just demoed version 2, correct?
That's correct. And part of the rotation is that your version 1 dashboards will be upgraded to version 2s. The one question we haven't fully answered on that yet is whether you'll have to rebuild your dashboards or whether we can save them and move them to version 2. All of the same reports and visualizations are still there, plus a handful more. So even if we can't save your dashboard, you can rebuild it because all of the pieces that you had will still be there. So when you hear the notification and that it's coming out, if you really, really like your layout, take a screen cap of it so you can rebuild it.
And if they already have version 1, and when version 2 is ready to be deployed, will they have to contact us to get upgraded to version 2, or will we be contacting all Sedona dashboard current users to upgrade them?
That I don't have an answer for. As a matter of fact, we have one rollout process, but we're looking at something more automated. So we have a rollout process now. To once it gets QA, we'll be able to start rolling this out. If we have the automated process, we hope to be able to just touch your system once, and then after that, it will be automatic. It'll just come and be there the next morning when you come in. But yes, probably you should contact us because I don't know. Not being in the IT department, I don't know what records they have on who has dashboards. So ideally, that would be better. We'll answer that in an email after we talk to IT.
Okay. I think I already got all the other questions answered while you were talking, or you already answered them as well. So that okay. Ends our Q&A to date, unless anyone else wants to quickly message another one. Otherwise, I think we're done, and I can turn it back over to Sam.
Great presentation, guys. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. I think you'll all agree that Matt and Wayne did a fantastic job. And we'll have this recording of the webinar posted on the website within 2 business days, and I will shoot everyone out an email when that is posted. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.